Welcome to my improvised presentation. I'm sorry it came in such a short notice. So Christian thought that it might be a good idea to make this short, compact presentation and to videotape it so that the others who couldn't make it today, so they could later watch it and maybe send some questions to me via email or come to visit Tallinn, as you did 2 years ago. Yeah.
Beautiful city.
Yeah.
Wonderful university.
Yeah. So, as our research center is relatively large, so we have 25 plus staff there. So we do lots of different things. So I picked some of them which might be of interest to you. So, and the title is supposed to be catchy: digital turn, innovation in teacher education. But actually, the digital turn is the kind of brand I invented and I kind of reused in different contexts. So the most important one being in the context of our national strategy for education, where we have 5 most important goals for 2020. And one of these goals is digital turn towards one-to-one computing and the related shift in pedagogy towards more creative, collaborative and self-regulated learning in all levels, starting from kindergarten up to adult education, university, degree programs. Okay, but first, everything I'm going to tell now, you have to put it in the context, and you need to know that Estonia is really a tiny country. It's only 1 million population, 1.3, and less than 1 million of these people are actually speaking Estonian as their mother tongue. The rest mostly speak Russian, so about half of them, they practically can't speak any Estonian, although this is our official language. So it means that we also have 2 types of schools, the ones who teach in Estonian language and the others who teach in Russian. We have few schools also that teach in English. Also, according to OECD PISA study, which is a comparative study of educational systems, the 8th graders took part already for 5th time, I think now, in 2015. Estonian schools seem to be among the best in Europe. So, especially in science, where we are number 1 in Europe. In maths, we are in the second place, and in reading on the 3rd place. So we are quite good, actually. Our schools are good. The difference between the worst schools in Estonia and best schools is the smallest in Europe, and also the shortest of lowest performing students and on the level of 5th and 6th in PISA is the smallest in Europe. So our school system provides good opportunities for social mobility for even kids from poorest families. And otherwise, also Estonia is quite well known for its kind of digital development agenda, and our e-governance platforms and practices are probably among the best in the world. So just a few examples that Estonia was the first country to implement digital voting and local elections and parliamentary elections and European Parliament elections since 2005. So about 35% of people they elect they vote at home through browser. Yeah. So, but this is just one example. So it actually, this digital development, it cuts across different fields and domains like police, healthcare, social services. Yeah. But we have to prepare, our schools and teacher education have to prepare the citizens for this digital society. So this is our mission. And our university, Tallinn University, it's the third largest university in Estonia. So we almost don't have private universities anymore. I think one is left only, so all the others went bankrupt because it's very difficult to compete with good public education, which is free. So our universities are not allowed to charge any fees from students for studying, except if you study in English. Then we try to rip off all the foreign students. We have about 10% of them. Yeah. So, yeah, this is the background of Estonia, tiny country in the north. So we are about on the same latitude as Anchorage, Alaska. So you should understand also that how short are our days in the winter time and how short are our nights in summertime. So in this Tallinn University, I've been working now last 20 years in the Center for Educational Technology, which I founded 20 years ago. There was in the beginning only myself and another guy, but now there is more than 25 people working there. We have 17 experienced researchers, like senior researchers, professors. It's international team, so our working language is English, everyday language. So we have professors from Germany and Portugal, and then senior researchers from Spain, from Austria, Germany, and doctoral students. Some of them work part-time for us in our research projects. They come from, of course, majority from Estonia, but also from Russia, Ghana, Nigeria, Georgia, Albania, India, and many other countries. So what is also good that we are not only engaged in research, which is actually in most cases quite applied in the nature, but we also are able to develop some software products as a part of these research projects. And some of these software products have become really popular among users in different levels. So the main teachers portal in Estonia and learning object repository and some online learning environments and assessment tools and authoring tools for open educational resources, which we created, they actually became popular nationwide. Yes.
Where's the funding from? Is it from the government, or do you apply for grants?
No, we are 100% on the project-based funding. So we get nothing from the government, nothing from university. So the university gives us only rooms, and we pay rent for these rooms. But all the funding comes from different sources. So we are constantly applying for new grants, mostly from European Commission, but also from Ministry of Education in Estonia and some private. We have some privately funded research projects. So it's lots of work to guarantee that all the stuff is paid also next year. Yeah. So we managed to get one large grant from European Commission. It's about 3 million euros, so less than $4 million for 5 years, that allowed to hire this international team from Spain and Germany and Austria. There is not very strict agenda for this project, so it means that actually we've been given this money just to kind of upgrade ourselves and to raise our capacity And we do some interesting stuff with this international team, especially in teacher education. So we try to make some true innovation in teacher education using technology, but not always. Yeah. So most of my colleagues, they are researchers, but and just like me, and so we don't teach much. So we teach maybe 2-3 courses a year, and we usually teach on weekends. So because our students are mostly full-time working as teachers all around Estonia. Although our population is small, our distances might be quite large, and we have lots of islands where people live on islands. It's not so easy to come to Tallinn from an island. But we have some. We teach mostly. Our researchers teach on STEM education. STEM teacher education program. Then we have a very popular educational technology program that prepares like technology integration specialists for schools. Most of the larger schools in Estonia, they have hired full-time educational technologists. Who's working not with technology but with people, so with teachers. They are usually these promoters and innovators and kind of activators of their colleagues. Then we have a new master's program which is international. It's called Designing Educational Games. We have the students from Japan, from US, from all over the world. We have already established master program in human-computer interaction, and the brand new one which will start next year, which is Open Society Technologies, using the open technologies for e-governance, but on the local level, for communities, for non-governmental, non-profit organizations, and also local municipalities, the local governments, not on the national government level. Yeah, and our PhD program is called Information Society Technologies. Formally, it's under computer science, but actually, the most of the PhD theses are about e-governance, e-learning, e-health, e-safety, this kind of softer side of computer science. And most of the students there are from outside Estonia. Yeah. In 2014, our government introduced, not even government, this was more interesting. It was actually a non-profit, non-governmental organization that kind of collected all experts from different areas and then created Estonian strategy for lifelong learning. Because previous 4 times the Ministry of Education tried to come up with a national strategy and they failed every time. So we lived for 15 years without any strategy of education. But now this network of non-profit organizations and experts, they managed to put together a nice strategy. I was also part of this team, and I was responsible for this digital turn agenda in this strategy. So this action plan has 4 goals. First is to introduce this digital culture in curricula and also in everyday school practices, teacher communication, between school and home communications, and so on. And also we try to support bottom-up innovation in schools. It means that we don't define exactly that how all schools have to be changed and there is only one right model. So we encourage all schools to invent their own meaning for what digital turn means for our school. And we give more funds to some schools which are already more advanced, but in return we demand that they would open their doors to other schools, so they will become like a learning resource for other schools. So we picked up this approach from Finns, they called it aquarium or fishbowl method, is that they're transparent for other schools. So the other thing, the other goal in this digital turn is to use more digital learning resources instead of traditional textbooks, both open education resources and commercial digital textbooks. So we work closely together with publishers in Estonia, and we support them in their digital turn towards this e-textbooks and the interactive digital resources. And we try to come up with new ways of assuring quality of these digital learning resources and also collecting learning analytics data on using these resources. If we're going to switch now to one-to-one computing in all schools, it also requires that we would replace all Wi-Fi and other network systems in all schools, and our government is investing now a lot. So I think by 2021, all schools will have a brand new high-speed Wi-Fi network available. That covers all classrooms, but also we need to take care of the digital safety, because in most of the cases government will not buy these devices to schools, but we are going to use students' own devices. We have on national level bring your own device policy. Of course, some schools could opt for, if they have money, they could also buy but most of our schools are not so rich. So schools are owned by the local municipalities. We don't have school districts. We don't have school inspectors. We don't have superintendents. So schools are quite autonomous. And the principle of the school is like captain on a ship. That he can command everything. And we have many schools which have very different assessment systems, for instance, they have invented on their own. Yeah, and the fourth goal in this digital turn action plan is redefinition of digital competences of teachers and students, and also providing some instruments and frameworks how to assess them, both for teachers' digital competence and students. And this is one of my research areas. I'm currently doing research not only on Estonian level, but on the level of European Union, and developing framework and tools for assessing teacher digital competence. So if you are interested in this, yes, I would be glad to cooperate. Yeah.
Oh, I actually am interested in that, but if students, do they get to pick what schools they go to, or is there usually one school per community, or can they choose between schools if there's more than one within a community?
Most of the communities have more schools than one, but the students usually pick the closest one, or parents usually pick the closest one, because as I said, that there is not much difference between good schools and not so good schools. So it doesn't make sense to go through this hassle of difficult logistics every morning. Although we have very good public transport system, but still, so yeah, we have some schools in Tallinn which have kind of better reputation than other schools, but they are still normal public schools. We don't have charter schools. We have very few private schools, but these private schools are mostly like, Waldorf or Frenet, Montessori kind of schools, or then religious schools, like Catholic schools, or. But yeah, it's just difficult to compete with free product if it's a free product, it has a superior quality. Yeah. Yeah, but I would say most of the kids go to nearest school. I have 4 kids, 3 sons and a daughter, and I live in a small village, and all of them went to the nearest school, and they went in the same school 12 years in the home village with 500 population. So they started the school at the age of 7 and graduated at the age of 19, and they went directly to university. And the level of the education from this village school was the same as in the best schools in Tallinn, I would say. So it didn't make any sense for me to drag them to Tallinn every morning. Yeah. So my storyline about digital turn is illustrated with this images of which compare this current digital turn with the previous one in 1980s, when we shifted from one computer for all schools in Estonia. This is on the photo below. This is actually the computer that was installed in one Estonian school, focusing on mathematics and science. It was installed in 1964, the year I was born. And for next 20 years, this was the only school computer in Estonia, and that was enough. More was not needed. And also in the upper photo, there is the only single computer that did all calculations for all shops, the wholesale area in Soviet Estonia. So we had this planning economy. So everything that had to be calculated. So how much soap would citizens of Tallinn need after 5 years? So we didn't have free market. It was all pre-planned. So yeah, but then we, after this first digital turn in 1980s, 1990s, now the supermarkets look like computer labs. But now we already have the new generation of shops popping up, like Apple Store, for instance, where you don't see anymore these desktop PCs which are hooked to the wall sockets with cables and so on. And every salesperson has an iPhone hanging on the neck, and you just swipe your credit card and you have purchased the thing. And every customer practically has at least 1 or 2 devices which are computers essentially with them. So they already have installed Apple Store app, and they have compared the models, and they can make the purchase without coming to the shop. So this is completely different culture of shopping and culture of using technology in the shopping context. But the schools are still, majority of schools, at least in Estonia, are still stuck in this one computer lab per school model. And it's very difficult for schools because, for instance, if a biology teacher wants to use computers only for 50 minutes in the lesson, she has to book in advance, like 2-3 weeks before this computer lab, and hope that it will be free. And then probably she will spend the whole 45 minutes, the whole lesson there, although she doesn't need it. So, but now we're trying to switch to something which corresponds this Apple Store model. It means one-to-one computing, but there are different ways to approach it. And of course, it's not about technology. Technology is only means. So the main thing, just like with Apple Store, is the culture of using technology, the culture of doing the things differently. And what we're going to do differently, we already have some ideas. That it means that we want to use technology to change learning, to be more creative first, not acquiring some prepackaged knowledge and then just preparing for tests, but creating knowledge in the form of digital artifacts that could be shared, reused, remixed by yourself or by some other students next year, younger students. So we, for instance, we've experiment now with new kind of textbooks which are unfinished. So it means that this is the task of the students to complete the textbook. The students have actually to create assignments for the textbook. So because if they are able to create, for instance, 3 assignments about I don't know, vectors on the 3 difficulty level, then they have mastered the content much better than just practicing assignments that were written by someone else. And you can do it with this new type of technology, the handheld devices. So we piloted it with the support of Samsung in Estonia in 20 schools in 2014, 2015. And the idea was that if we want to make such a radical change like this digital turn, we cannot rely on methods that focus on macro level, like on national level, like changing curricula or changing textbooks or exams or something like this. This is important, but not the most important thing. And we also, it's not enough also to focus on micro level, on the teachers level, to send all teachers to the courses and expect them, they come back with new skills and immediately begin to apply these new skills in the everyday practice. So we think that in order to make this digital turn and other educational innovations sustainable and scalable, we need to invest on meso level, in the intermediate level, or school organizational level. So engage school leaders, engage the team of teachers, to make them to work together, to study their practices, and to define that what is the goal of their change, so that they all feel that they own this, they are the owners of this change. It's not coming from above or from parents or from companies like Apple or so. So it's their thing. So it's based on Fullan's ideas. Michael Fullan is a famous school educational innovation professor from Canada. So he stresses the importance of change management knowledge and pedagogical innovation knowledge in parallel with this technological innovation. Technological tools are only means to implement this pedagogical innovation. So what we did, we created an open competition for schools. Any school could apply. So they submitted their digital turn projects, because in national strategy it doesn't define very clearly what do we mean by digital turn. And it was done on purpose this way, because you remember question mark there in my photo. So we don't know what is digital turn. So we asked schools, tell us, what do you think the digital turn should be about in your school's context? And we had very small rural schools, we had large urban schools, Russian schools, Estonian schools, and they all came up with different ideas. So first year, 50 schools applied. Our jury picked up 8. So all schools which said that for us digital turn means using more technology, we immediately put aside. Not interesting. It's not quantitative change. The digital turn has to be qualitative change first, and later, of course, the upscaling. Yeah. So some schools focused on changing the role of the learners. Learners became teachers. Learners became creators of learning resources, texts, videos, even assessment. The other schools focused on systemic and sustainable change, which might be even outside of the immediate kind of the technology use. So for instance, they changed how assessment was conducted in the school, especially formative assessment, like oral feedback to students. Or one school focused on integrating 3D modeling and robotics across many subjects. And they use this technology for integrating different subjects, like STEAM project-based learning. Then some other schools, they had completely different ideas. For instance, one school said that, okay, there is a large community of Russian schools in Estonia who do this language immersion, the content and language integrated learning. So Russian kids, they come to school at the age of 7, they've never spoken any Estonian, and now teacher only speaks Estonian to them. The teacher starts from day one to speak to teach all subjects, mathematics and science and everything, only in Estonian. And they just are immersed in this conversation, and by the end of the year, they already pick up the Estonian language. And then they gradually start shift back to Russian. So 5 years later, they have 50-50. Half of the courses are taught in Estonian, half in Russian, and so on. And they said that, okay, this digital, this language immersion is done in 50 schools in Estonia very actively, very successfully, but they don't use any digital technology. We are going to show how it can be done using bring your own device. So they invented digital language immersion, and they became national leaders in this. And I actually won the prize in the first year, 10,000 euros of Samsung devices with factory prices. Yeah. So, yeah, it was, and it was a Russian-speaking school, the poorest area of Estonia, and like 10% of gypsy students. So, yeah, and they did really amazing development during this half a year. Excuse me? Yeah.
What were these devices like? What kind of things did you do?
Any devices students had. And in this school, normally, on average, about 90% of Estonian students have smartphones. In some schools, they're banned. But now we have this national policy on bring your own device. More and more schools actually adopt it. But in this school, they had only, I think, 70% of students who had smartphones. The school had to buy some to give to these students who couldn't afford their own. But mostly it was smartphones. They used very simple technologies like QR codes, Kahoot, Google Apps for education, something really simple. So technology-wise, it was super simple. But pedagogically, it was really attractive, and students were engaged, teachers were engaged. Even 80-year-old the house lady of the school, the cleaning lady, she got so engaged because she always saw that the students are running around the schoolhouse and taking photos of these QR codes, and then get so excited. She asked her grandchildren as a birthday gift to have this cheap smartphone, so she could explore after the kids went out of the school. So she went around the schoolhouse and solved these tasks of the musics and English and so on. Yeah, yeah. So this was the first year, and second year it got even crazier, and so there were some digital storytelling projects and schools that got rid of textbooks completely and replaced them with student-generated digital resources, and on the first 4 grades in elementary school. And yeah, so but the problem was that if all schools run in different directions, but in the end we have to come up with very clear and valid assessment that which school is the best to get this main award, because only one school got this award. So together with the schools, we actually developed this framework that allows us to measure how far are you with your digital turn, and this result.
How do you actually assess it, especially if all the kids are doing something different?
Yeah,
like
so, yeah, because we assess it on an organizational level, and we used Fullan's framework. So we have 3 domains which are evaluated or actually self-assessed by the school team. So the first is pedagogical innovation, which is the most important one. The second is change management. It means how the school leaders are supporting it. And then digital infrastructure development is also kind of necessary, but not the most important one. Yeah. And then we created this 5-point scale, where in the first level, the innovation happens in school, but no one knows about it. So in every school there are some innovative teachers who practice some cool stuff, but if they are not kind of encouraged, they don't share it with other teachers. So on the second level, it's all this sharing is already organized and managed by school leaders somehow, and the group of these innovators is already growing a little bit. On the third level, it's already systematic, so that the school continuously and consciously deals with redesigning the educational practices on the whole school level, and they change their curricula, they change their assessment approaches, and so on. On the fourth level, they already are beyond that. So majority of teachers, they don't consider it anymore innovation, because for them it's a new routine already. Yeah. And on the fifth level, you are like the national leader in this sector. So it means everybody comes to you to see that you are this fishbowl tutorial for the others. So it means that only very few schools actually could reach the fifth level. So majority of the schools, they're lucky if they reach third level. So based on that, we created this instrument, online platform or online tool for schools to self-assess themselves. We rolled it out 2 years ago, and last year, 2017, more than 90% of Estonian schools actually used it for self-assessment, which is like three-stage process. The first, the school principal or educational technologist, someone who is knowledgeable of this digital maturity of the school, very quickly goes and self-assesses this. Says, okay, here, according to this digital age practices, we're on second level, but for changing the learner's role, we are already on level 3. And then he closes the report and hands it over to a team of teachers. So in some schools there were 5 teachers, in some schools there were 20 teachers in the team. And they have to validate this person's assessment by providing hard evidence. And this evidence cannot be created for this assessment, so it has to exist already there. In the school newspaper, on the school website, and some school documentation, in some reports. And if they are able to validate it, then on this level assessed by principal, then they close it. But here you see that here is a slight difference in the shade. So it means that principal assessed on the 5th level, but then teachers said that no, we have evidence only for level 4. So it means that, but we keep both. And actually, I don't even know that maybe it was vice versa. Principal put on the 4th level and teachers raised it to the 5th level. It's also quite likely, but we don't reveal it. So we just show that there is they are probably in between of these 2 levels. And then they set their targets. They could also ask the other school to come in and revalidate their assessment. But then they can benchmark their results with other schools, their average scores of other schools. But we don't give one single score of digital maturity. It's always like 15 scores. Because some schools are very good in pedagogical innovation, but not so good in change management or technology, and vice versa. And then the next step is they use this data for making their digital strategy. They say, okay, we are now on level 3, but after 2 years we want to be on level 4. And then they should come up with action plan, with detailed budget and who is responsible and where the money comes from, and then this is sent automatically to the level of city. So city collects all of them and makes the city digital strategy of education. So,
the dots are the goals, the colors, how far they've come.
Yeah.
And the dots are the goals.
So this means that here, so monitoring and analytics of their progress, the digital turn, they are really poor. They're on level 1. For network and safety, they are between 4 and 5. So here they have reached the top, but this school is really on top. So they teach other schools. But you see that here they plan to make a jump of 2 levels within 2 years, and here they are happy with what they have right now. And then they can take this and embed it on their school website. So as a badge, they wear it proudly. But it's open for anybody, so it means any parents can go to the system and find their children's school and see that how they stand. but it's not valid. It's not a research instrument. We didn't do it for the purposes of gathering data for our research. We said, no, this data is for you, so you don't have to lie. Some schools still did, so okay, they know better if they want to look better than they are. Yeah.
There's no public pressure outside of the school. It's all internal.
No, there is public pressure only that you need to self-assess yourself, and you need to come up with digital strategy. Some schools were not very smart, so they assessed themselves very high, and then they were not able to put any targets beyond the level they already are. So it means that then the local municipality said, okay, so next 2 years, no money to you because you are already there. You don't need any more. So this school is actually very advanced school, and you see that they set their current stage very low, so to give the room for improvement. So most of the schools were very happy about this digital mirror tool. And now European Commission has developed something similar, but their methodology is different. So they just survey all teachers and all students in a school, and then calculate averages, and but we are planning now to integrate them because they complement each other. So this was my presentation last week in Stanford University at the conference. So we tried to explain that how we are supporting data-driven decision-making in the context of education and innovation in Estonia at the school level. So at the national level, it's not used right now. So and probably it's difficult to use, but it's not the point. The point is to support school level educational innovation. So here is the map of Estonia and all the schools that took part in it. And here are some data, so you can see that they actually set their targets significantly higher than they are right now. Yeah, but we have created also several, I think at least 3 or 4 different online learning platforms, like learning management systems. So currently, the teacher education department in our university, which is the largest in Estonia. So we are the main initial teacher education providers in Estonia. So the faculty of or School of Education, they use this tool created by our team. It's called e-didacticum. It means didactics is probably not a well-known concept here in US. You use curriculum and instruction, but
right.
But we are closer to European tradition, German and Russian and French didactics tradition. So this is a completely open environment. So practically, by default, anyone can enroll to my course here and participate in the course. And if they are formally not registered as students, they don't get any credits from me, but they can participate. So the students use their blogs as their learning environment, the personal learning environment, and they follow each other's blogs. So all homework, so this is the table of homework assignments. You see that I have some 6 graded assignments and some introductory, like practice assignments. So the green one means that it has been evaluated by me already. And all of them are just linked to this blog. So I click and I end up in this blog of the student, and I see that if other students have been reading and commenting this, so it's highly encouraged. So I actually give 10% of the course score for social learning. So if you have never commented any blog of other students, then you will lose some points. But what it makes, it changes learning because students already know that some students are fast and smart, and they submit their homework earlier, and they then just wait when these students have submitted, and then they use this as an example, but they don't copy, and vice versa. They actually begin the dialogue with the other students. They said, just like these students before mentioned, yeah, I agree with him in this, but I don't agree that these other students argued that this and that and that, and I don't agree with this. So it's completely different type of homework assignments. And also my feedback to students' assignments is the same. So if I see already third time the similar kind of mistakes or some weird claims, I already responded to the other student. Then to the third student, I only said, okay, read my comment feedback to this student B. So you have the same issues here and you can improve it. So actually, because this is their blog, they can always go back to their blog post and click edit and improve it. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that no students would start protest later when I gave bad grade and he later, with the later date, improved his assignment. But we never had these problems. We sometimes have problems that students don't want to use their own real names here, and because it's completely public. So we say that, okay, just pick a pseudonym. So Mickey Mouse, yeah. Everybody in the course knows that, okay, Mickey Mouse is Mart, but no media or parents or no one else outside knows who is this Mickey Mouse.
So
Yeah.
when you grade at the due date, and then you don't go back and change it if they update their blog.
Yeah, but this is personal. I'm very lazy person, and I set due dates, but I never keep them actually. So many students they submit their stuff much later after the due date, but it's their problem. It means that they are going to be really busy in the last 2 weeks of the course, because my assignments are very demanding, so they need lots of input, and I warn them in the beginning of the course. And most of them they follow the due dates, but some really don't, and they are in big trouble, and they get just lower score because the quality will be so much lower of their input, so they can't copy. Yeah. So because the other students notice immediately if they copy. Yeah. So here is another tool we created for pedagogical innovation, to change instruction, because we saw that some teachers are coming up with really excellent innovative scenarios, for instance, for this tablet classrooms or some integrated project-based learning. But their practice doesn't scale up, so it just even if they make lesson plan, no one goes to and reads other teachers' lesson plan. So we wanted to come up with some easy visual language which is easy to write and easy to read, because like with this pedagogical scripting, we are in the stage like where musicians were before the music notation was invented. So you only can learn by listening the other musician playing this tune. But after Bach, we have this nice notation, and every professional musician just opens the new sheet music and it immediately starts playing. So can we do it with pedagogical strategies and scenarios? Yeah, we tried. So one of my master students came up with this kind of visual language. It's a timeline. So this is the duration of the activity. When activity is green, it means that it happens before or after the lesson. So all these blue activities are in-class activities. So this is 5 minutes, this is 10 minutes, this is 20 minutes. And this is indicating the what we call level of co-authorship of student. It means that because we see that the student's role should be changed into more active, and the more students should take role of author of learning resources like textbook and presentation and interactive learning assignment and stuff like that. So here you see that this is maximum. So this task, they have to create some digital artifact from scratch. This is something the teacher created, but then gave students editors rights and said, okay, go ahead, remix. But this is, you see that this is only, the students only consume information because this is PowerPoint presentation on the wall. So, and now imagine I have 20 lesson scenarios on the wall. I could immediately see that some are completely flat. So it means that it's lecture, 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 lecture. And maybe even if there are some interactive tasks like in iBook, Apple iBook only reaches this level because you cannot submit it to teacher. So next level is submitting, where teacher collects the responses and gives feedback. So it also, this framework allows us to analyze and compare different e-textbook platforms, which are more kind of engaging to learners, which are not so much. So, and this also indicates that which services are used, Google Forums, and which devices you can use for that. Can you use any, like bring your own device, or is it meant for desktop computers and data projector? Yeah. So this has been now further developed because we saw that it still kind of promotes this pre-planned direct instruction too much. And we wanted to be able to describe also scenarios where the students go in different or parallel routes. So some students are engaged in one type of assignments and the others are in the other type of assignments. So in the new version, we have this support, and in the new version, we have also support of undesigned parts of lessons. It means that the teacher says, okay, this second half of the lesson will be designed by students during the lesson. So I don't know what they are going to do. And then there will be some yellow space, and students are able to add activities and resources. And these resources, actually, you can give this scenario to students and as a blueprint of the lesson. So it means that if here is the survey, students just click here on this bar and they open the survey and they fill it in. Or if here is the presentation, they click here and they see this presentation. So yeah, but these are just few examples I'm showing you that you would understand that what kind of research we do. So this is the tool we created for teachers' self and peer assessment of their digital competence, where teacher first kind of guesses or estimates where he or she could be on the 5-point scale with this competence. It was based on this American framework, actually. You probably know ISTE, CNET's, there is organization, International Society of Technology in Education, ISTE. Yeah, so they have this teacher's competence framework. We have been using it for the last 10 years or 12 years. But the trick is that we discovered that after the second, the teacher self-assesses, but then we validate it. If teacher says that, okay, I am on the second level, on the stage 2, then the system gives a task to solve. It's like from authentic context, but it's still like a multiple choice or fill in the gaps. It can be automatically assessed. But it was a problem that we were not able to come up with this kind of automatic tasks for level 3 and beyond. So for upper levels, we then decided to go for peer assessment. It means that because it's mostly portfolio based, so teachers submit some kind of evidence here for the level 3 or 4, and then the system randomly picks another teacher who is already on level 4 and requests, okay, can you quickly, in 5 minutes, review this evidence submitted by this teacher, which is anonymous, and validate that if this teacher could be on the level 4. Yeah. And the STEM project we just recently started is focusing on Internet of Things sensors. So one of my PhD students is working on this new concept in a smart schoolhouse. So she started from smart house project, but but the smart house projects are kind of limited, so they're about like either entertainment or heating or climate or something which can be automated at home. But she says that, okay, but smart schoolhouse is not just a smart house because it's also, it doesn't collect data from sensors to give it to automatic system. So the data should be accessible by students. So students should be able to use this data for if TTT, you know, this if this then that service, very simple coding service, which you can make many different digital devices to talk each other and get signals from each other and then make something happen. For instance, if the noise in the classroom reaches to a certain level, then the loudness sensor notifies, for instance, lights, and lights start to blink or turn red or something like this. Or if the oxygen level in the classroom goes low, then they open the window or something. But the students actually get their hands onto this data. So there is an interface, and they can hack into it, and they can do something with this data. So we have already some schools which are doing it, but we wanted to make it simpler, and we prepared some kits of this Internet of Things sensors and gave them to schools without any instructions. And we said, okay, we come back after 3 months, and please tell us what you can teach with these things in school. They were very confused, especially teachers, but we said to teachers, don't worry, just give these things to students, and let students come up with the tutorials, the worksheets, and everything. So my wife is one of these teachers. She was really scared in the beginning, but now she understands that actually students can teach her how these things works. So first, yes.
What age group is this for?
It's starting from 6th grade, so they're like 12 years old, from 12 till 15, 16. So first set is the body sensors, you know, the mind wave reader and this activity sensor. Yeah, and all sorts of stuff that you can stick to your skin. They measure your all sorts of signals from your body to do research about your body. Then the second set is about smart clothing, which kind of combines fashion design and electronics. And you know, if you move in a certain way, then lights are blinking, or to the pace of music maybe. Or then the third set are room sensors, about recording everything you can get from a room, like noise, lights, oxygen. Even we have stickers to fix to chairs and any movable objects that we can measure their movement in the room. Then a digital science lab. We have 2 sets. One is this pocket labs, which you can pair up with your mobile device to collect all sorts of data. And we have also hydroponics set. Hydroponics is that, you know, that you can plant something, and then this automatic system controls the humidity level and light, and yeah, so, and the students just love it. And the 5th set is digital creativity with VR, AR, 3D printer, this green screen for shooting videos and so on. And we just gave it to schools, and now in the middle of June we're going to see that what they came up with, the students themselves. So yeah, and then we are going to multiply it. We're going to buy 25 of these sets, and they are going to rotate among the schools. So 25 schools are going to use them in the next 2 years. We're going to have lots of data for our research. And we do also some outreach projects in countries like Serbia, Georgia, Moldova. In Moldova, we are running this similar Internet of Things project, but it's focusing on physical learning, changing physical learning environment. Something like Manuel explained me in this room. You mean that this kind of furniture that you can replace, and these green solutions, and because if you change the furniture and design of the room, it also forces teachers to change pedagogy. So we have some examples of the schools. We are also working on with outdoor learning with mobile devices. We have a project where we developed a service for Tallinn, Helsinki, and Stockholm zoos that allows visitors of the zoo, and his learners and teachers and families to create this like geocaching kind of adventure games. So it means that not the zoo workers create these games. Zoo workers can create some items and some media content, but eventually the game is compiled by students. So, and then they play each other's games, they compete, and it's lots of fun. So yeah, and this is another free service, and it's available in English, smartzoos.eu. I think you can use it also here. But our biggest project is now, and the last one, we call it Living Lab. And this focuses also on supporting the digital innovation on the school level, but we also are planning to use it as a teacher education model. And the idea is that the teachers should learn about innovative pedagogies through experimenting with them in their school and collecting data about their experimentation, and then kind of making inferences. This worked, it didn't work. So it's all evidence-based, but evidence is not coming from like a classical pre-test, post-test control group and experimental group design, but it's more like qualitative and then case study based. So it works for us, and if they have collected enough evidence that it works for us, we don't care if it works for other school. Probably not, or maybe it will. So it's up to them to discover. So university creates some model projects, and once a week they invite students, the teachers together with the kids, the pupils, to come to the university for a whole day. And there is the whole floor with 9 lecture halls as big as this one, prepared for these kids, and they're just moving in groups from one room to another, and they have different challenges in every room, prepared by our didactics professors and their students, the teacher education students who are accompanying these kids there. And for instance, last year I remember one project day was inspired by Jules Verne's book Mysterious Island. So they always had to escape some dangerous situations and solve some problems, and using their knowledge of science and maths and or biology. And then they went to the next room once they escaped, but there was another problem to solve, and teachers followed them. And from time to time, teachers were invited aside to reflect upon it, and also they were, in the end of the day, they were asked to adapt it or make their own smaller version for their school, and then try it out and do like a mini research on this. And we consider it as a effective, although quite costly and with the long duration, but still it's a teacher education. It's different type of teacher education where teachers kind of self-educate themselves and they share their experiences with other teachers. There is always a team of teachers engaged in this. And now we encourage also the school leaders to be involved in this experimentation. But we try to create this kind of inquisitory approach in teachers, so that they not only try out something new, but they always collect data about this. And they reflect and they analyze like researchers. And we as researchers, we're still supporting them, but not in the traditional sense. Usually when in the traditional schemes, the researchers went to school, they went there to collect the data and go away with this data. And maybe they later sent you an article that I published in some important international journal or conference. But now we say, no, we are here only to assist you because we know how research goes, so we know good research methods, and we advise you in selecting research methods, in analyzing the data. But the data is yours. The inferences are yours. So we are not going to take this away from you. So if you don't want to share the data with us, it's okay with us. So we are only here to kind of facilitate the process of organizational learning. So this is it. And if you want to do collaboration with us in any of these directions, digital competencies, the digital maturity of the schools, spreading and visualizing learning scenarios, or the living lab concept, we are happy to do joint research. If we would be able to get a grant, which is very difficult. So I know that the European Commission's funds are not available for US partners, and I guess this is the same here. So your NSF grants are not available for us, but sometimes the money is not most important. If you could just synchronize our research efforts, we could ask funds from each of our own donors, and then just synchronize our data collection, use the same instruments, and publish together. This could be also interesting, but also visiting each other would of course be nice.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I just want to say
Yeah.
Very
So this is it on my behalf. If you have any questions, I would be happy to respond.